Hey, we're going to make a more in-depth video about using sonic tomography to inspect your trees, and specifically the ArboStApp app. So this is a tree I looked at the other couple of weeks back. It was on Lake of the Ozarks. It's a red oak. They had removed a similar tree. It was really hollow, so they wanted to know if this tree was hollow and whether it needed to be removed or not. There was some canopy dieback, and they wanted to keep it because it was shade for their pool. So here's what the base of the tree looked like. Here's where I put the sensors. There was a little area in here where there was a mushroom, and you can see the area around the tree has a ton of rocks. So here's what the ArboStApp app looks like. First, what you do is the tree. The program thinks every tree is a perfect circle. So what you do is you push in and out the architecture of the tree, so it matches what the tree looks like in person. So in here, there was a buttress root at sensor number 1. So right here, I pushed it out by about 5 centimeters. This is where the sensors are all placed on the tree. This is the circumference of the tree, and then where all the sensors are located. You place them in specific architecture points of the tree. You don't just place them, every so often, every like 20 centimeters or something like that. You put them in places for a reason. And so you tap on each one of these sensors, and it sends a sound wave through the tree. Here are all these different times. These times, the ones that you're keeping in and it's kicking out, is based on what kind of tree you put in there. It has a pre-selection of speeds. So here are all the speeds. Every time you hit a sensor, it'll give you a number between 1 and 100. You can think of these as like percentages of error. So like you want them under 10. So I'd like to get everything under 10, and this is good. You got a mixture of zeros and ones. That means you're getting a good reading. Here's what the times look like. The computer will tell you lines based on the times, where it will have the faster lines. The sound waves are going to go through non-decayed wood faster than decayed wood. So those faster times are going to be green. So in this tree, we can see that there's green all the way around it. There's some areas where we're getting yellow times. In between here, like in between 10 and 2, we've got a yellow line. In between 5 and 6, this is kind of where that little, there was a mushroom over there. And we've got a really slow line going from 6 until 12. So what this is showing you is that there's something going on inside of the tree. So the computer takes all these times and gives you a 2D image of it, and it says this is what the inside of the tree likely looks like. This has to be confirmed via tree drilling. If you don't do tree drilling, you're going to run into some problems because these images can be bad based on how deep you put the sensors in, whether there's possibly a rock in the tree. Certain kind of trees can make very hard wood on where the inside where they're decaying at, so they can ring more hollow than they actually, or ring more solid than they actually are. So there's a lot of different factors. So you always want to check with drilling. If you're not checking with drilling, I don't think what you're doing is good. So there's your 2D image. The computer then takes this image and pushes load on it, and it's telling you right here that this tree is worse set up when you've got load coming this way to collapse it in on this decayed area. So you've lost, at maximum we've lost 21% of our load carrying capacity of this tree. And so what does that mean? You might be able to say that just seeing this is enough for you to advocate removing the tree. It may be good to retain the tree and monitor it. That depends on you. Generally, this is not where I go with my information. This is just one part of it. So I use this app called ArboStApp. What this app does is it pushes in this image of the tree, and you put in some factors of it. The tree species, the diameter of the tree. Really importantly for this tree is that this tree was topped. right here at some point in time. So it originally was 16 meters, it's now 11 meters, meaning that at some point in time this trunk was built thick enough to support a much larger tree. And we've got that the tree is 60 years old based on the client's information, and that we've known that based on when it was topped and how it's growing afterwards, this tree is not grown in maturity, so it's no longer, hasn't grown in height in at least 5 years, and then the growth rate of the tree. So all of that information gets put into here. What we're looking at is this tree is giving you a relative safety level of 79%. A relative safe tree, a tree with a good, healthy looking canopy and no defects, would be at 100%. So we're going to have to improve this if we want to try and retain the tree. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to correct this maturity level, just letting the computer know that this tree is no longer growing in height, and it hasn't grown in height in 5 years. So that pushes our relative safety factor up by 10%. That's because every year this tree is growing in girth, but it is no longer growing in height. Then what we're going to check is this wind load reduction due to height. Because the size of the canopy has gone down and it's gotten smaller, it's reduced that load on the trunk, and based on this being a big topping cut that they made a while ago, it pushes your relative safety level up to 262%. And then the last thing that I do, and that's probably enough to tell these people, hey, your tree is in good shape, you can retain it. The last thing I do is, because we do have some dead canopy right in here that we are going to prune out, I want to click that in there and say that, if we reduce this little bit of the canopy out, that is going to improve your relative safety level of the tree up again to 319%. So, that's showing you how you can have a tree that does have a defect in it, but is safer than a tree that doesn't have a defect in it. So that's the math behind it, and I use this system a lot.